So there you have it, the events at Port Adelaide during the week. David Koch speaking strongly on Monday. Ken Hinkley on AFL 360 also on Monday asked about those comments. And then last night on Channel 7, David Koch somewhat backing away from those strong comments and guaranteeing Ken Hinkley his job next season. How did you see it? You didn't mind what Koch did?
No, I didn't. I think that's the role. He's entitled to demand excellence in that role, given where they've been over the last 2 to 3 years. He's well aware that Ken's been there 10 years without a grand final appearance. He's probably the only coach that's had that tenure and not been to a grand final. I don't think it's as easy as just saying, oh, well, let's just roll on. Let's just accept that he's got a contract, let's roll on. It's a competitive marketplace. There's an all-time Hall of Fame coach up for grabs, and if they want to get involved, well, maybe they made an inquiry, Cornesy. Maybe they made a phone call or two. Hey, Alistair, are we any chance? Okay, no, we're not. Well, we have to go back on what we've said. Maybe they just left the door ajar a fraction for a phone call to come the other way. So I don't mind it. That's the role. He doesn't have to be popular, but he's got to sit there and call a spade a spade.
Yeah, well, I think he did it to be popular. I think he did it because there's a lot of disgruntled Port Adelaide fans that don't want Ken Hinkley, and he's felt that and he's been influenced by that, and that's why he made such a strong comment on Monday. They're not happy, the Port fans, Kingy. What role do the supporter group have in the selection or the decision around coaches? Because I mean, he would be the coach under the most pressure next year, regardless of what happens, and he's got a lot of supporters against him. It's almost an impossible situation for him to be
in. So what?
Yeah.
So what? So what's the alternative to that?
Well, I'm asking you, is it the right thing that they've done to guarantee him the job
next year?
Yeah.
Well, we can't have it both ways. Like Koshy said, well, you know what? We're going to look at this. It's an elite high performance program.
You guaranteed him the job next year. So
he'll start next year.
He 100% will start next year. Is that the right call?
I wouldn't. I think he's within his rights to have a look around, and if he thinks there's a better option, that's the job. So flip this, all right? Take it away from Ken for a moment. So if you're in charge of the Essendon Football Club and there's an opportunity to get Alistair Clarkson right now and he would say yes to come to your football club, would you walk Ben Rutten to get Alistair Clarkson right now?
Yeah, I would. And I would have done that.
So that's the job, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would have done the same with Ken, but I don't think it needed to play out publicly like this, because not only do you put Ken under the pump, you put all the staff under the pump as well, and they'd be really anxious about it. And it's high performance industry, I get that, and that's what you'll say to that, but I'm not sure that needed to be played out publicly, and then 3 days later you walk back from the comments that
So I don't understand you saying that. Of all people on the AFL landscape, I don't understand you. I said the same thing ages ago about when the North Melbourne Recruiters got sacked, about it being personal. And you said, well, it's a personal industry. If you can't handle it, get out. You're in the wrong game. If Ken can't handle this, he's in the wrong job.
But you got to give your coach the best environment.
He's had 10 years.
I understand all of that, but why say all year that he's your coach next year? On a Monday say, oh, turn it around in 2 weeks or look out, and then 3 days later say, oh, no, what I said on Monday, forget that. He's our coach again. Like this. Did
he say turn it around in 2 weeks? I think he said it's turn it around or else.
Yeah, he said turn it around or look out, but he was specifically asked about the rest of the season, and he'd been asked about that. And so as if you're going to learn anything in 2 weeks.
I didn't take it as 2 weeks.
I did, and
I don't know if there's a reference to 2 weeks. That's where for me there's enough grey area there for him to get away with it, or to at least have the discussion. I liked it. I think that those guys are there to make tough calls, and if the tough call is, you know what, I'm not comfortable with where this football club's going right now. They're 12th on the ladder with 8 wins.
It's been a poor. There's no one's denying it's been a poor year.
So who does that sheet home to?
Well, the coach, but I just don't know what you gain out of saying that publicly with 2 weeks to go. That would be my view, and then he's walked it back. So anyway, we got to the point where we've always been, and Ken Hinkley is coaching next year, and there may be some changes in and around him.
Do you think he should be coached next year?
Well, unless there's a better option, which there doesn't appear to be, if you're choosing between Ken Hinkley or an untried coach, and the fact you're
weighing it up then.
No, well, you've got to weigh up everything. You've got to weigh up who's available. You've got to pay him a $600,000 check, which goes into your soft cap. That's guaranteed. There's no getting away with that. And then you've got to work out who you think could do a better job. So if Alistair Clarkson isn't there and there's not a better option, I've got no issue with them backing in Ken Hinkley and being loyal to the last year of his contract, which they signed him to.
See, I'd come at this the other way. As soon as you decide he's not the man to take you to the premiership, not to be a nice coach, a good coach, and finish 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. You don't want a nice coach. You don't want a comfortable environment. You want a high-performing environment. As soon as you think he's not the man to win you a premiership, you make the call.
How many clubs...
And then you worry about who the next option is after that.
Yeah, but how many clubs do you think know that the coach they've got is the coach that can absolutely...
You don't know that he is, but when you make the decision that he isn't, move on.
Okay. Do you think Essendon still think Ben Rutten could take them?
Maybe they're unsure. But
Brisbane
the minute they think he's not, they'll move on him.
Okay,
it's more when you think they're not the one to take you to the promised land. This stuff of waiting for a better option never comes. Never comes.
Righto, Kingy. I want to move on because I did notice this in the Herald Sun. Now, there's some thought, and there has been around for a while, that player wages should be made public. And a lot of people say, oh, you can't make player wages public, and you tell us what you're getting paid. If you want player wages public, you tell us what you're getting paid, all that.
Yes, I agree with them, all of them.
Well, but we're guessing anyway. So the Herald Sun are about to do an expose on the top 100 players in the game, and they are going to guess.
They're not guessing.
They're guessing. Because the wages aren't public.
So, okay.
Informed guesses.
More than informed. They would have made hundreds of phone calls for this.
But we've seen
hundreds.
We've seen this happen before where they've announced their top 100. And look, I'll click on it and I'll read it. I'm not criticising the Herald Sun. It's good stuff, and you get a lot.
Great article.
You get a lot of.
Who's doing it?
You get a lot. There's a crew.
There's a big crew doing it. Means a lot of work.
John Ralph, Jay Clark, Mark McGowan, and our man Glenn McFarlane, who's a gun.
So those people, Cornesy, are not putting their names and reputations on the line.
So my point is
to be inaccurate.
Why not just make it public? Because you're telling me this is accurate anyway.
Around the mark.
So let's just make it public. So we're gonna have all this media coverage of this, and they're speculating to a point, because we've seen before. I think Max Gorn was named in it one year, and he came out pretty strongly and said, "I earn nothing like that." So they don't always get it right. But I don't. This is the whole point that I've got. It'd be better for the players if this is actually public. But I wanted to ask you a question. I wanted to progress the conversation. We often criticise players for being overpaid, and some players not delivering to their contract. Who's underpaid? Who are the underpaid players in the game, do you think, that are giving extraordinary value to their team and don't necessarily get the paycheck that some others do? So the most underpaid player in the competition this year is Nick Dacos. He is the most underpaid player
only because
in the game. But that's the thing. It is.
You're just finding a new way to bring Nick Dacos into the conversation. Like everyone's talking about, he'll be all Australian, he'll be Brownlow medalist, he'll get the most.
Would you, if he was not in his first year, what would his contract value be worth? He would be a $600,000 to $700,000 player, I would assume. If he wasn't just on a set contract in his first year. I think he's the most underpaid player in the game. And young De Koning, Sam's probably not far behind him for what he's doing for Geelong.
Yeah. On what I've seen this year, and I think this guy will be on reasonable coin. So he's a senior core player and been in the system for quite some time. I would say Shea Bolton.
Ooh.
In terms of being able to swing games and influence matches with a team that's had its injury challenges all year, what he's doing, what would he be on right now? He's doing a new deal.
Yeah, I would think
so he would be on unders.
7, do you think?
Max.
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah,
I reckon he'd be in that conversation.
Kingy, you want to start us off this morning with the Cats, who you've been very complimentary of during the week, just with the way they're playing both offensively and defensively, and essentially something would need to go horribly wrong for them not to win if they continue this trend. But you noticed something with their selection yesterday.
Well, I think a freak event will be the only thing that stops them winning the flag this year. And people say, well, what does that look like? Well, we've seen it before. We've seen a Mason Cox do something in a final series that's just off the charts and poor kicking a goal. Things can happen.
Suspension, injury.
Things can go wrong, can't they? But But in the main, what you can control, you look at what the Cats have done the last couple of weeks. So their ins this week are the 4 they left out last week: Rowan, Selwood, Blitzarves and Dangerfield. I mean, fancy walking that 4 back in on the back of an unbeaten run for the best part of 3 months. They've now managed or rested Mitch Duncan, who's low-flying, Mark O'Connor, who's a significant part of their back six, Isaac Smith, who's their gut-running half-forward slash wingman, and they've dropped Luke Dalhouse, who's a bit stiff because he played pretty well last week, but that such is the strength of their lineup that they're massaging the resting of 8 players over 2 weeks.
Yep.
I can't remember the last time we've seen this. So how do you tell people you're low-flying without telling people you're low-flying?
And then they're looking at adding Brodie Grundy to the mix at the end of the year. Like, it's just extraordinary with what they have done and the way that they have had that management of the squad mentality all year. And I think we'll see a bit more of that.
What do you see when you look at the Cats? What do you? I mean, I know they've got a lot of unique style players, and they're not really setting the game up for individuals this year. But what do you see that you love about the Cats?
I love their selflessness. I don't think they care who plays well. They don't care who kicks the goals. They come off, they support. I see a squad that is so even. Like, it's hard to often. You look at the Geelong games, and sometimes you do the votes on the Sunday Footy Show, and you go, who was Geelong's best player? Well, I don't know, because they're so even, like across the board. No, I think they're not afraid to be innovative and try some things differently. We've spoken about Cameron up the ground and on ball. We've spoken about the role that Blitzarves plays in a role that you perhaps wouldn't have thought he would at the start of the year. Not as reliant on Dangerfield anymore in Selwood. So just the thing that I would answer is how even they are and the selflessness of the group.
I know you're only recently getting on board Champion Data, so I don't want to stress strain the friendship, but they are the first team in 15 years.
Yeah,
you can steal this and use this again on the footy shows like you do. They are the first team in 15 years to be ranked number 1 in terms of turning a possession into a score, and number 1 at ensuring the opposition do not turn their possessions into scores. 1 and 1. We've never seen that for 15 years.
And the last team to do it was them, wasn't it?
Was them in 2007. Yeah. So it's a remarkable profile, a profile that just should win the flag.
Okay, well, let's see how that plays out, but it's a good position for them to be in. Can Collingwood win it, King? Like, I've loved, as I said repeatedly throughout the year, I've loved the story. I'm more sceptical on Collingwood than others are, and I haven't sort of been caught up in the prospect of them being there on prelim final weekend. What do you see with them? I know you've done some vision on the way that they outnumber at the contest during the week, and they get over and support each other on the ground, and they quickly turn, when they're outnumbered, into an advantage to them. But are they good enough to win it, do you think?
Oh, they're good enough. Yeah, they are. And to win the flag, you always have to have something that's a point of difference to the competition. You've got to stand next to that opponent on grand final and say this grand final day and say, this is where we've got you. When the ball goes into this phase, this is when we get you. And I think it is their outnumbering game, their support game, their want to run, their want to turn up for their teammate is unparalleled. And maybe it's not absolute structure, but the way that they play post winning that ball back is exciting. Yes, they've been down on occasion, and maybe their percentage is a bit lower than what the norm sort of has been for sitting second or third on the AFL table, but you can't deny their spirit. And I don't care
no one's denying that. No,
that's the reason.
Yeah, they're jumping on landmines for each other, and they're just in that sweet spot of what they're doing. I wonder whether you can win it without a genuine key forward. I don't know how long have we ever seen it happen before.
Dogs?
Yeah, the dogs. They had Boyd down there. Stringer kicked a lot of goals, didn't he? But that's the closest one that I can remember. Like, genuinely no key forwards. So if you look at it, and Anna P put this on the radar with us last week.
He did, yeah.
With Elliott, Ash Johnson's been extraordinary, really. McCreary's that grunt workhorse player, Mychek, and to go, he's more of a centre bounce forward player than the rest. And then you've got a bit of Hoskin Elliott, a bit of Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron. But if they were to pull this off, with the list that they've got and the lack of a key forward, considering the opposition and what they've got, it would be amazing.
Mate, they will put a statue at the front of the joint of Craig McRae straight away. It'll be the shortest tenure to receive a statue in the history of statues. Can I throw something at you? So I always think there's alarm bells at round 22, round 23 with the ins and outs, but more specifically the outs.
Yep.
So you know where your career's at or where it's tracking to if you're out at round 22. Hanbury, Zach Jones omitted is an interesting one for the Saints. You can spin through your own team if you like, but there's a few there
Robbie
that make
Gray was out for Port, I
Robbie
thought.
Gray, yeah.
Are they setting him up for a final game against Adelaide next week? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Paddy Dow getting dropped again makes me think: Are they going forward with him next year? Alex Keith is an interesting one. You know, where does he sit? Given that Jones is coming in next year, you know, Josh Bruce managed. We talked about him the last couple of weeks. Spin through your own teams as much as you want, but I just thought, wow. It's a bad time to get dropped if you're an AFL player right now.
It is. No, it's a good point that you make. Chris Fagan has responded to your strong thoughts on Brisbane, just about Harris Andrews, and I think we might have them here. We might just have a listen to Chris Fagan responding to Kingy's thoughts on AFL 360 during the week.
No, I didn't see that or hear that. Was that on the back of his game against Harry Mackay last week where he kept him to one goal? I can't comment because I didn't hear what he said, but I would have thought that's a bit of an unusual way to go on Harris. It certainly doesn't play that way. We were really proud of his game last week, and hopefully he'll continue his good form on King this week.
That was on the back of you demanding that Harris Andrews play like a man, really.
Well, look, it's just I think it's the stone in their shoe. That's all. Fakes doesn't miss anything. Don't worry. So, in terms of the things that we look at without the footy, right? So your defensive 50, your ability to stop the opposition moving the ball, the ability to win the ball back between the arcs, they're the poorest ranked of the top 8 teams. The poorest ranked of the top 8 teams. And I will guarantee you, Cornsey, that if that profile doesn't change and change dramatically, then they don't win the flag. They don't make the grand final. And then what will you be saying? I guarantee you that Fags won't be saying, we're very happy with how things are going if that's the case. So let's wait and see. Let's just wait and see.
So
and tonight's a big occasion.
It's their midfield and forwards though, right? Not
No, it's their back six.
Their back six.
And their team defence.
Okay.
So it involves, the whole thing involves the whole team. You've got to engage in winning the ball back as a group, not just relying on your back six. But they don't play with a level of physicality like Sam. I showed some Sam Taylor vision. He just bumps and jostles and takes timing off his direct opponent, whereas they don't do that to Brisbane Lions defenders.
So that game against Carlton, they were ferocious. And I know they pick and choose a little bit, Brisbane, but they're
offensively brilliant.
No, I thought Lincoln McCarthy's defensive game was as aggressive as I've seen from a small forward. So I thought their smaller forwards got after Carlton and forced them into fumble and error and hack kick and couldn't cope.
First quarter.
Yeah, first quarter particularly, which was where it was set up. Is there a group of small forwards that have this much talent in the game? It's amazing when you look. They just loaded up. So last week I reckon they went, right, Zorko, been everywhere, I'm going to put him in the front half. Rayner, we know the talent there. Link McCarthy's a goal kicker. Charlie Cameron's the best small forward in the game. They have a group of small forwards and then the others, Zach Bailey, go forward and score as well. It's just, I think they've under-delivered is what I'm trying to say. I think Brisbane have under-delivered on what they've got.
Under-delivered?
Yes. With the talent that is in that front six, it's the best group of small forwards in the game, and they've under-delivered.
Wow. I'd mount an argument that Sydney have got the best small forward line in the comp. Goulden, Papley, Heaney,
Hayward.
Would you consider Hayward small? I don't know, but if you do, he's in that conversation. I think they got such a dangerous half forward line and forward line that it could just take them to the promised land.
A lot of people are asking you about North dropping Jason Horne-Francis. I know you've touched on it quickly, but let's put this on the agenda. Right move or wrong move to drop him at round 22?
Well, the interesting part is he hasn't played against a South Australian-based team this year.
Coming home too. Yeah, they're coming.
No interview process, no Rory Lobb type versus Western Bulldogs. Have a look at what you're getting next year sort of scenario.
Be a long shot. He can jump on a plane in 2 weeks and come home, which he will.
Well, it just makes me think that they're dealing with some standards, but are those same standards being sheeted across Jaden Stevenson and Taron Thomas? I don't think they are. is that really where the club's at to sort of give some tough love to one player, knowing that a new coach is walking in a fortnight's time, if not earlier? It wasn't. It's not a bright move, I don't think.
So who are your wings? Because you're going to smash the wings.
Blitzarves and Josh Dacos.
Blitzarves play wing.
He does, yeah.
Does he?
He has, regularly.
He'll start on the wing, will he?
He'll start on the wing and he'll roam from there, whether he go forward or do as Chris Scott does with him, whether he sort of takes over a bit of ruck, goes behind the ball for support, tags the opposition's best player. He's such a versatile guy. He is the wingman for me.
Been more of a on-baller / backup ruckman / tagger, hasn't he, than a wingman?
From the wing. But he's starting as a wing.
More starts centre bounce.
No. You're looking at the last 6 weeks, or are you looking at the season?
Well, I'm looking at the...
Have you been watching?
So the last 6 weeks, you're saying he hasn't been a wing?
Last 6 weeks, I reckon he's played more tagging roles on and off the opposition's best in big games in particular, and been that secondary ruckman.
Who's the other one?
Josh Dacos.
Josh Dacos on the wing, okay.
You don't think Josh Dacos has had an All-Australian year?
I didn't say that. I didn't comment at all. I said Josh Dacos, okay. Well, I'm not going to say, oh, yes.
All right, I'll give you my back six. Stewart, May, Sard, Rioli, Taylor, Maynard, with the seventh being Sinclair on the bench.
So you got a defender on the bench. That's a very solid back six.
Blitzarves, Oliver Dacos. Happy with that? You don't have to confirm.
Across the middle. That's his Kingy's All-Australian team.
So would you have a problem with Shea Bolton, Curnow, Petrarca, J. Cameron, Hawkins, C. Cameron?
This is your team?
Yeah. Would you have a problem with that?
I'm not commenting on...
Is there any glaring problems there?
I'm not commenting on it.
English, Miller, Brayshaw, bench, Bontempelli, Cripps, Neal and Sinclair.
English?
Yeah, I think he's been a terrific ruckman this
Tim
year.
English. We'll post Kingy's All-Australian team
don't think so?
online. And
who's your ruckman?
You can give him
You're going to fall back on Gorn,
You can give him the feedback on his team because he's going to smash whatever team his name.
You got two rucks?
We don't have anything.
Oh, no, but if you were doing your selections, would you have two in the team?
I can't remember which way I went.
Don't tell me you haven't got...
All will be revealed.
Have you got wings?
After round 23. That's King's All-Australian team.
You put a ball-winning midfielder on the wing.
Be prepared to give him some feedback on that. We've got a lot to get through.
Is English in the All-Australian team is my question.
Yeah, 0433 90 11 16. Has Tim English had an All-Australian season as the ruckman?
Did you say yeah?
No, I said yes, I agree with you asking that question. I think it's a worthwhile question to answer.